All right, we'll get started if that's okay with everybody. If everybody is ready, we'll mute your line. We're going to do that automatically on our end. But if you have any questions, if you want to drop it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself later on in the presentation. My name is Simone Malaz. I'm the Executive Director of Restore or Retreat. I am part of the COAST team. We're going to tell you a little bit more about who we are. I was about to spoil it there, but I'm going to actually turn it over to Melissa Daigle with Louisiana Sea Grant to introduce both our team members and the program.
Hi, everybody. If you can't hear me, just let me know. So I'm Melissa Daigle. I'm with Louisiana Sea Grant's Law and Policy Program. And as Simone mentioned, we are a partnership that make up the COAST team. And so if we could go to the next slide.
Yes, I'm trying to do that. Let me see. How about this? Well, Melissa, do you have it? Do you want me to share it to you?
Let's see. I can pull it up real. Okay.
Yeah, let me see.
And while she's getting it pulled up, I'll talk a little bit about how the partnership came to be. And so our team is made up of Restore or Retreat, Louisiana Sea Grant, and the Water Institute of the Gulf. This project is funded by BHP, and our goal is to provide information about coastal issues to communities in Terrebonne and Lafourche Parish, although of course some of the information is really applicable to everywhere across the coast. And so if you go to the next slide. So this is just a little bit about each of the members. So Restore or Retreat is a regional coastal advocacy nonprofit that really focuses on large-scale, long-term restoration of the Barataria and Terrebonne basins. Next slide. And then Louisiana Sea Grant, represented by Jim Wilkins, Nikki Pace, and I, with the Law and Policy Program, is an organization that is housed at LSU, but has offices across the coast, and that really works to promote stewardship of the state's coastal resources through education, research, and outreach. We're funded in part through a NOAA grant, and there are actually 33 Sea Grant programs across the country, so we do have a nationwide network. And next slide. And so our last partner is the Water Institute of the Gulf. We're working with Scott Himmerling and Jesse Parfait. And the Water Institute of the Gulf is a not-for-profit independent applied research and technical services institution that really looks to help coastal and deltaic communities thoughtfully prepare for an uncertain future. And so it's a really good fit, our three teams, because we're working a lot in the same areas. Next slide. And so a little bit about how the program came about. And so we received funding from BHP to start what we call the COAST project, which stands for Coastal Advocacy Through Science Training. And our goal is to connect Native coastal communities in Lafourche. I'm sorry, my first grader is yelling at me while he's in virtual math class. So I'm sorry.
We've all been there, Melissa. We've all been there.
That'll be great in the transcription, right? So our COAST project, which stands for Coastal Advocacy Through Science Training, really looks to connect our Native coastal communities in Lafourche and Terrebonne to coastal leaders, scientists, project managers, so that way both groups can get a better understanding of the challenges and opportunities that these communities are facing. And so next slide. And so Simone, if you want to go ahead and introduce our speakers for today.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. As part of our program work, we're working to identify some projects, some actual physical projects in both Terrebonne and Lafourche, but all while we're doing that, we wanted to make sure that we're connecting on all different things related to coastal. So people that are doing coastal work, whether it be the master plan or in this case, doing important work in coastal education, we wanted to offer that to the community as a way of a resource. And so it was a really easy call for me to make when I asked my friend, Dr. Christine Strickland, who's the chancellor at Fletcher Technical Community College, if she would do me a solid and help us with a presentation today. Fletcher has done so much tremendous work in this area. They have really responded to the needs of the coastal community. And so I'm very proud to have her on today, and so many members of her team who've actually helped us do some of the physical work as well. But Fletcher annually serves over 3,000 credit students in the Bayou region. And it also serves non-credit workforce as well in adult basic education, almost to the same amount. The college is known for its strong academic, technical, and transfer programs. So I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Strickland. Do you want me to turn over hosting duties to you? Do you have slides?
I don't have any slides. Okay. I don't know if my team does, but hopefully we'll be engaging enough as we are with just our faces.
I have no doubt about that.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation to be with you all today. We are excited to be here. I see some familiar faces on the call. I also see some new faces. So please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to let us know. Before I turn it over to truly my two rock stars in this arena who I just get to look really good on Zoom meetings with them. So before I turn it over to them, though, I wanted to kind of highlight at a high level overview some of the work that's being done at Fletcher and share with you a little bit about our vision and where we're hoping to go. We talked a little bit about our work in credit and non-credit and adult basic education. I would also note that we recently have become very engaged in working with the education and assistance in moving folks back into our communities who have been incarcerated. It's a relatively new endeavor for us, but we're having a lot of success specifically in the technical training programs. And I would mention welding being one of those in particular, where we're hopeful that these individuals, once released, will be able to re-enter our communities and get some jobs and enter the workforce in some of these career options. Fletcher is celebrating its 70th anniversary this year. Hard to believe. We have been known historically for our technical work, but we are a comprehensive community college. I'm going to let my team talk a little bit about the programs, but we really have tried to be very forward thinking and very forward looking into the needs of our community as we begin to develop new associate degree programs, new certifications, and industry-based credentials. And we'll hit those on a high level, but we do have a couple of new associate degree programs specifically around coastal, as well as a number of certifications. Some of those certifications are maybe in related fields like unmanned aircrafts. We're doing some things with drones. We are also doing some things with an airboat certification course. We are looking at issues around dredging and curriculum around dredging. And I would also mention that we've had some initial conversations that I'm excited to announce today. We're kind of getting in the pipeline to be able to offer the National Green Water Infrastructure Certification, as well as the Small Business Certification to work on those kinds of projects. So we've had some great conversations with our friends at GNOF, and hoping to be able, once they pilot this, to begin offering those to folks in our community as well. I'd also like to just take a moment to highlight some of our partnerships where one of the things that I believe we are very committed to at Fletcher is not duplicating efforts, to leveraging the work that is already being done and to lend ourselves, our resources, our talent to those initiatives to strengthen them and to help broaden them in whatever way and shape we can. Certainly, we're very proud of our partnership with Restore Retreat and some of the work that we do. And thank you, Simone, for everything that you have worked with us on. It's been tremendous. And we also have other partnerships. I would mention, other than Ganoff, we have worked closely, for instance, with the Foundation for Louisiana. We have partnerships that span both Baton Rouge and New Orleans. And thank you to BHP. You know, they have also been a very strong partner of ours throughout. And I do also see some folks on here from Nicholls State University, and I just want to give them a shout out. Really, really tremendous partners working with us to ensure that as we begin rolling out training and degrees, that those can then be stacked and actually can be transferred over to Nicholls State for those who want to continue their education. Couple other highlights for you. We were recently, if you weren't aware, awarded a Bayou Stem. So we are the STEM sort of regional providers. The state recently identified regional STEM coordinators, and there was some funding that came through on that. And so Fletcher was the recipient in order to host that. And I know Dr. Coleman will talk a little bit more about that. Also want to mention the work that's being done around the state in our Louisiana Community Technical College system around a program called Reboot. The Reboot program is utilizing funds that is coming in from the CARES Act dollars. And we received about $10 million from the governor's share of those funds. And what we're doing with those funds is we are rolling them out in short-term certifications that will help either upskill and reskill individuals, or for those who have been dislocated, especially because of the pandemic, to help them enter new fields. So I can tell you, we had a call yesterday, and one of the big conversations was hospitality workers who have been displaced due to COVID, and how do we get them retrained and reskilled so that they may have access to some of these jobs in coastal and water. Very, very important. To that end, we have a list of credentials that we are prepared to offer at drastically reduced prices, and even free. They don't even have a 99 cent at the end of them. They're that cheap. But they are things like NCCER Core, OSHA 10, NCCER Level 1. We have a customer service one, but all of those, forklift training, all of those are being rolled out, and they are free to any members of our community who would like to get those certifications. So if you know of people, you know of business and industry partners who might find some use of those certifications, please have them contact us. Last but not least, you know, we are always open to scholarships. And so, you know, for those who are on the call, if you know someone who would like to enter into one of these fields, please have them reach out for the scholarships. Last but not least is our marine campus that we're developing in East Houma. That is a consortium of 7 technical and community colleges, Nicholls State University, Louisiana's the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. I'll get it in a second, y'all. As well as LumCon. And we are in the process of building out a brand new, it'll be a $50 million campus on Dixon Road, right off of the Houma Navigation Canal, that we anticipate will not only hit topics such as coastal, but we will also be focused on other important topics such as cybersecurity for ports and vessels, our unmanned aircraft programs, and we will still continue to do all of the short-term Coast Guard training for those mariners who need it. So that's just a real high-level overview. I am super pleased today to have some outstanding faculty, and I think that if there's one thing you take away today, I hope you take away that we have hired the best and the brightest, I think, in educating our next generation. Dr. Clint Coleman, who is with us today, is the Dean of our STEM division, and Ms. Jacqueline Richard, who is with us, is our Department Head of Sciences and has really spearheaded so many of our degree efforts in standing up these programs. So I'd like to turn it over to them if that would be okay.
Great. Thank you, Chancellor Strickland. As she mentioned, my name is Dr. Clint Coleman. I'm the Dean of STEM. I was hired on in January 2019 to stand up the STEM division at Fletcher. And one of the few things that we started noticing right off the bat was that, we needed to, stand up this coastal education piece. And so we, along with Jacqueline, when I hired her on, I brought her over from New Orleans with me. And she's been trying to work on coastal. She's been doing it in her part-time for many, many years. And finally was given an opportunity that, hey, come over and help me build this, and, we'll build it into the curriculum. So I'm going to let her talk a little bit about what she's been able to do on her side But from our side, what we did was last October, unfortunately, the pandemic's thrown a curve into some of our things, but last October 2019, I should say, so wow, it was more than a year ago, we stood up the Institute of Coastal Studies at Fletcher. And so within that, what we were hoping to do was build a one-stop shop for people that were exploring careers in coastal or looking for opportunities, whether it be volunteer or outreach. And so we wanted to have this spot on the Fletcher website that people could go to and learn about everything that we were doing. And so we're currently working on building that website out. It should be available hopefully here in the next few months. But some of the things that we'll have in there are going to be our 2 new associate's degree programs that Dr. Strickland talked about, which was the Associates of Geology. While most people don't think about geology as being related to coastal immediately, you know, I know when I think geology, I think rocks, and we don't have a lot of rocks in Louisiana, as Jacqueline reminds me quite frequently. But ultimately, you know, it's all about the land and the building out of the land and understanding exactly how these different processes work and how we can do them better and potentially understand at a higher level how all this works. And so we were able to put the Associates of Geology program. It's been approved all the way through the Board of Regents. It's now an offered program. We have our first student getting ready to graduate this semester. So we're excited by that. It was actually a transfer student that had some of the credits already. And so Jacqueline's teaching some of those 200 level courses this semester that we weren't planning on rolling out till next year. But, you know, we got them out there to get this graduate out and ready to go. The other one that we just recently had approved at the Board of Regents level was the Associates of Environmental Science. This course and program is going to focus mainly on the flora and fauna of the coastal areas, understanding exactly, you know, how all this stuff works together in nature, as well as what we're doing, the man-made pieces, and how it all can come together and be done in a proper and sustainable way. That program was just recently approved last semester, and we anticipate rolling it out to students to start enrolling in as soon as fall semester. Some other programs that we're looking at building out on the curriculum side is going to be a transfer degree in biology. So again, let me point out that all these programs that we're building are transferable, as Dr. Strickland pointed out too. We recognize that there are a lot of great jobs out there for people that have a 2-year degree, but you know, those that are interested in moving on to a 4 or even graduate school level, we don't want them to have to start all over again when they go to those other schools. So all these programs were built from the ground up to be transferable. We have articulation agreements in place or being prepared to be in place with places like UNO, Nichols, even LSU and their coast, I think it's Department of Coast and Environment, I believe is what they call it. You know, we have them also involved in this, you know, being able to have students be able to transfer right over to them. On the non-credit side or the certificate side of things, as we mentioned, we have the drones. And again, this is something that we're doing with the home at Terrebonne Airport, where they're trying to bring in the larger UAS drones that can go out and service oil and gas, as well as do survey and surveillance work for the Gulf of Mexico as a whole. And so they're working with the Pentagon and the FAA and Garrett Graves, as well as Senator Cassidy, to bring these in. And what Fletcher's role is ultimately is to build out the first couple years of education that somebody might be interested in going into drones would want to do. Well, that's great. You know, there's a lot of opportunities out there for folks that want to get a certificate 107 is what we call it, Part 107. And this allows them to be a commercial drone operator where they can ultimately go out and collect a fee for their work. It's a great program, you know, but we recognize there's a lot of coastal work that can be done with the drones. You just imagine some of this high quality photo and video work we can do, as well as the infrared and other multi-spectrum that these drones can do. We can actually go out and check the health of plants, especially new plantings that have been done. We can go out and check out the health of old vegetation, you know, using the infrared technology that's now on these and the skills that are back there. We can also do just surveillance work of places that are difficult to get into with boats or airboats, you know, and not disturbing the environment. So we're excited about bringing the drones in. We're expanding that as we speak. Right now we have the Part 107 available, being taught by Ryan Melanson, which is the Terrebonne UAS you know, pilot for the parish. On the other ones that are on the certificate side are going to be our Coastal 101 course. This is a course that we put together with Mark Black and the Terrebonne Restore Dollars to basically a 1-week course for folks that are interested in understanding all the different opportunities that are out there for them. to get involved with. And we have that program, I believe, is starting up next month for the next course. It should be out there. Some information can be on our website to find if you know anybody that might be interested in joining that cohort. We also have the airboat, as Dr. Strickland pointed out. We just hired on our instructor, Kyle Neal. He's going to be coming over and starting to teach that course for us. We've got all the curriculum available, and so we should be having the first course on the books here in the next month or so. I know I'm signing up. I believe Jacqueline's signing up too, to get those information about how to drive these things properly and appropriately. Other things I just want to touch on briefly before I turn it over to Jacqueline is our Bayou Stem. Bayou Stem is a part of our STEM outreach, and a lot of our outreach is going into the coastal work. This is a part of what they call the Law STEM initiative at the state of Louisiana. Law STEM was founded and passed by Senator Hewitt in the state legislature. She had this idea that ultimately all K through 12 schools should have STEM education in them in some sort of fashion in the state of Louisiana. And so it was passed in 2017. And of course, with every great act, there's no money to back it up. But ultimately here in the last year, Senator Hewitt was able to get $1 million appropriated in the state budget to stand up 9 regions in the state of Louisiana. We were awarded Region 3. We are actually the first region that is fully up and running. We have, the other 8 are actively being stood up as we speak. Our region is Assumption, Lafourche, and Terrebonne parishes. But again, this is not designed to be restrictive. We are also working with Plaquemines and St. Bernard and some of St. Charles too, to get a bigger picture of the whole coast and understanding what opportunities are out there to get education and information out to the teachers in those K through 12 schools. And I'll have Jacqueline talk a little bit about some of that work that we're doing with our partner Hamline University up in Minnesota. So the region, the Bayou Stem region, is going to ultimately be standing up professional development for K through 12 teachers. It'll be standing up some of our summer camp outreach that we've been doing here in the last year or two, as well as helping support any other programs that might be out there that impact the K through 12 community when it comes to STEM. Our director, her name is Jan Brennan. We just hired her on a couple weeks ago. She comes to us from GNO STEM over in New Orleans. She just recently resigned, or retired, I should say, and I dragged her out of retirement to come over and help us. And so she agreed, and I'm so happy to have her on board. She brings over a wealth of connections and opportunities for us to really move and hit the ground running with this new initiative. And so with all that, anything that you might have that, may be of interest to us, that, you would like to have a bigger soapbox to talk about, in terms of K through 12 outreach, please reach out to me or Jan Brennan or Jacqueline or even Dr. Strickland. We'll get you to the right people and we'll see what we can do to make that happen. So with that, I will pause and turn it over to Jacqueline Richard. I really like her to talk a little bit about the MRDI project that we just completed last week.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Coleman, for saying all the wonderful things that I get to do all day. Sometimes I'm kind of jealous of myself, taking students out on plantings and doing all these fun things that I really love. But one thing that we just completed was our Mississippi River Delta Institute. The folks over at Miro Foundation in St. Bernard and Dockville have traditionally partnered with Hamline University in Minnesota. And there's been a really great teacher exchange program that's gone on where some of our teachers, down here in St. Bernard and Orleans Parish go up to Minnesota to learn about the headwaters. And then vice versa, right? We bring teachers down. And the whole goal is to get Louisiana-centric K through 12, curriculum into the classroom. Because we all know that there's an issue with students staying local, right? They graduate, they go off to college, they go somewhere else. Well, we need people to stay here and help save the coast, and that starts early. So we have partnered with the Miro Foundation to bring some of that K through 12 experience and curriculum to Terrebonne and Lafourche. So this year was the first year that we were able to get a grant to be able to produce some stipends for teachers to go through this program. And it was a little difficult because of COVID. So we didn't get to go up to the headwaters, unfortunately, because that's like literally the best part of the whole thing. but we were able to open it up virtually. And by opening it up virtually, we actually had people from all over the entire country join this PD program. Hawaii, we had some people from Amsterdam, like literally everywhere. And so it was really quite incredible to be able to talk to more than just these small cohorts. But we were also able to develop some virtual material. I don't know if any of you guys, Dr. Coleman probably has heard some of my very long Louisiana geology lectures. I was able to take some of this funding and produce a 4-minute long instead of a 3-hour long geology of Louisiana video that can be used in the classrooms for this K-12 education. And this is something that we want to continue doing. We want to continue helping our local teachers bring river science into the classroom, because we all know it's incredibly critical. So we are going to be moving forward with continuing to partner with Miro and Hamline University. And we're going to be offering this virtual PD again in a few months. So we're going to try to keep it going, just keep it rolling and get people in and out and get them trained and bring it into their classroom. And it's been quite a wonderful success on top of all of these other amazing things we're doing. So thank you guys.
Well, no. We owe you thanks. Thank you for making people get physical and get out there and help us. I probably need to watch the geology video too, Jacqueline, just so I can have a refresher on Louisiana geography, geology. We do love to share those resources, and that's something that we want to be able to do. And so please send us anything that you have. We would absolutely love to share it. We love the folks over at Dockville. They've been very good to us so many times, and in such a beautiful setting and such good work that they do. I was remiss in my introduction of all my Fletcher friends to mention some of the fantastic partnerships and events that we've done in the past. And I've missed our Working for the Coast event. That's where we, I don't know who had this idea, but we bussed every single, at one point we started with juniors and they were a little too much for us. So we went back down. I think we did 9th graders the last time, but we bussed the kids from the public schools in both Terrebonne and Lafourche parishes to Fletcher to hear all about the coastal program that we have going on, but also to hear from speakers in the workforce. We had journalists, we had scientists. It was so fun to be able to do that. We learned so much, and we are so appreciative that Fletcher let us take over their entire campus and loaned us their faculty and their staff, and we love doing it, and we can't wait to the day that we get to maybe be able to do it again. And so I wanted to mention that in my introductions, and I'm sorry I didn't get to that. Only 2 more quick notes. Victoria said she wants to take the airboat class. So we'll get her signed up because nobody so far has been willing to teach her. So thank you for taking that risk and letting Victoria and take that class. And I have somebody in mind for the forklift class. So I've learned myself too. I'm making some notes down here. I do want to open it up to other folks that are on the line. But I just wanted to start with the kind of kickstart with the question. I know that the Fletcher admissions process is actually really easy. It's open all the time, right? And if folks have trouble, y'all have a ton of staff that I know are willing to help. So if somebody doesn't mind taking that on, just tell us about if somebody's interested in both non-credit and credit classes, how do they even start the process?
Well, excellent. Thank you so much for asking that question in particular, because we just overhauled our process. Have sort of that family history of knowing how to navigate college and what all to do. So a little over a year ago, we got into a room and we said, let's look at this process from the student perspective. And so we have completely overhauled our admissions and our advising process so that when a student comes in, they come in and they just tell us what they want to do and who they want to be. From there, we determine sort of what's the best schedule and program to get them there and how we can help them fund that. So I guess to demonstrate, if you came in and you said, I'd really like to be an electrician, Well, we have non-credit electrical courses that are short-term. Now you're going to go to school maybe every single day for a number of hours. But if you are an adult who, time is sort of your enemy and you need to transition into another career, we may put you in that program. Or you may say, well, I think I want to do something that's more traditional college, 16 weeks. I'm going to come to campus, a few days a week to study. And so we have that as well. But we don't ask you to walk in the door saying, I want to be an electrician, I want to do it non-credit or credit. That language is kind of our internal language, and it's foreign to a lot of students. So we are trying to break down that. So when you go to our website and you apply, we're going to ask you what program, sort of that, what do you want to be when you grow up question. Because, I'm old enough to know I still haven't quite grown up. And at some point, I'm going to probably be on a beach selling beach chairs is my ultimate dream job, right? But to provide an opportunity that they just go in, it's basic information. A lot of folks don't realize too, at the community college level for a number of our degree programs, especially in the short term, you don't need a high school diploma. You can actually enroll at Fletcher without having a high school diploma or GED, especially in some of our technical areas. So, lots of opportunities. So we provide that application. It asks some very basic information, and then we get you in contact with an enrollment counselor and an advisor. Those people help you determine, again, do I do short term? Do I do long term? We have a fantastic relationship with our local WIOA, our workforce, our Louisiana Workforce Board in the region. And if you know of anybody right now, they are offering it. I think the WIOA dollars are covering up to $12,000 for a student to transition. So if you know anyone who is underemployed or unemployed, that is actually really unique to our region here in Region 3. So send them our way, but we'll help them navigate the process of getting the access to those dollars. We'll also help them navigate the process of getting access to traditional like Pell Grants and financial aid. So our team is ready. And again, someone, as you mentioned, super easy. You just go to the website, you fill out a pretty simple form, and then we will contact you and get you in and to get you enrolled.
I think that's fantastic. I mean, especially because you don't want finances to be a barrier to entry on education if somebody's really interested. And so to know that y'all have programs available, I've seen y'all also have really slick social media, which is important these days. So reboot your career and things like that for people that are thinking about making the move. But sometimes it's really difficult to do that and knowing that what you could face financially. I'm so old that when I started college, it used to be like, whatever for dummies. It was probably like, Macintosh for dummies or something. But I used to always say that we needed to like getting into and through college for dummies, because I mean, to think that you start under a catalog, like if you talk to, you're right, Christine, it's just such a hard language. And so if I could just have told somebody what I really wanted to do, they could be like, oh, why don't you take these general classes first? And then when you really make up your mind, those kinds of things. So I love that approach. And so I think that's really great. And thank you for removing some of those barriers to entry there. We do have a question in the chat. I'll let, this looks like it's directed to Dr. Coleman. So Clint, you're up.
I noticed it, so I can go ahead and answer it.
Right.
Melissa, yeah, great question. A couple of our recent graduates from the 107 drone class were actually from Lafourche Sheriff's Office. And so they are, her question was based around, are we getting local government involved in the drone training? There's a lot of work that being done, especially after a disaster, and absolutely. So Homeland Security, uses the drones quite extensively. And so they're building up that base of people that have their certifications that can then go take the drones and utilize them. So one of the ones that I have in inventory right now is the DJI Mavic 2 Enterprise, and it actually has a spotlight and camera and a speaker on it where you can actually speak to people if they're actually out there and they're stuck or something like this. They can actually send a drone out when they discover them. They can actually sit there and have a conversation with them. I love that drone. So, it's one of my favorites, but you also have quite a few others out there that, that we have a total of 26 right now in inventory. And so, each of them have 15 of them are actually little $100 ones for kids to play with. So don't get excited about the number. I've seen everybody's eyes go, whoa. Yeah, but several of them are, the quality that you'd want to use in a professional setting. So we have Autel and we have Parrot as well as SenseBee. All of them have different capacities. So yeah, we are reaching out to the different organizations, real estate people, realtors, as well as insurance people, roof inspections. All of this can get tied into recovery after a disaster and having the drones be implemented. So yes, absolutely. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, Clint, I think you made a really good point when you were speaking about the footprint of a drone and how it's, it's really, it goes to places that you can't normally access. I remember when drones first came out, Wendell Curall bought one for his system because he could actually monitor the levee daily without actually having to physically ride it. And even at that point, you only have a certain point of view or a certain perspective. So I think I heard he maybe forgot to charge it up and it didn't come home, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. So I do appreciate your point about the actual access that drones can get to. As we build these massive coastal projects, there's something to be said in the construction of them, right? They could take weeks to months, and some of the projects that we're building could take years, but the operations and maintenance and monitoring of these projects will take decades. And so things like drone work and we affectionately call it bugs and bunnies. That part of a project which sometimes people forget about. We need to make sure that project is performing well before and after storms, but also that when we build the next project that we have those lessons learned. And so I always thought that was a really important part of projects that some people could kind of skip past because it's not as fun and sexy. So drone work certainly fits into that as well.
Yeah. I would also just mention, we are in some very, very early conversations about as well under unmanned watercraft vessels as well. So knowing that those can be very instrumental, everything from sort of the port security, being able to scan vessels for improper items that shouldn't be on there, right? That should be a concern, and we've had a chance to talk with our friends at the FBI on occasion, and there's some scary stories out there about that kind of stuff. But in addition to that, they are currently doing some demonstrations, I know, with CPRA on the utilization of these underwater unmanned air vessels to do some work under that. And then in addition on transportation, right? So my understanding is that the renew or relook at, say, a bridge can take up to 6 months because you're sending down divers and water quality, whereas these vessels can be used and can conduct a complete audit of a bridge in a matter of hours and days. So I know that there's a lot of conversation, but Fletcher is hoping to take the lead statewide as well in this arena.
Yeah, especially as we focus on aging infrastructure in the world. So y'all got it covered: green infrastructure, regular infrastructure. I said it earlier, I think, but if not, I want to underscore that I appreciate the nimbleness in which Fletcher moves as well. You see a need and you react, even when it comes to SmartAG and things like that. I love that y'all are so reactive to that, and I know that the companies in our area are also appreciative of that as well. So I think that it looks like Victoria's got her list of things. Looks like she's going to be a full-time student, so we have to stop this conversation before I lose her permanently to Fletcher all the time. I cannot thank you enough for being with us today. We have recorded this. Our friends, our partners at Louisiana Sea Grant, they transcribe it and they post the video with captions on their YouTube, and so we're looking forward to sharing that out as well. Selfishly, I would love for you guys to come on Restore Retreat's weekly podcast on Delta Dispatches. We'd love to have you guys come and update everybody on what the cool things are happening at Fletcher, and also to talk about that refresh in the admissions process. I think that would be great. So
can I just ask one question, Victoria?
Sure. Jim, go ahead.
So given the current movement towards renewable energy sources and so forth. Does Fletcher have any intention to maybe get into that arena, seeing as how oil and gas jobs are declining?
Yeah, we absolutely do. And I'm going to let Dr. Coleman talk a little bit about one of the things that we've actually had conversations over the years with a lot of the major oil and gas providers, is around diversifying what we do at Fletcher around a school of energy and not just around some of the oil and gas. And we've always kind of put our hat on in terms of deep water. But I will say that we are in the process right now of pursuing the GWO wind certifications and being able to offer those. But Dr. Coleman, if you'd like to kind of talk a little more about that.
Yeah, real quick, part of my job as Dean of STEM is that I am also overseeing the IPT program, which is our oil and gas program at Fletcher. And so I'm very much involved with understanding, where to see those jobs going. And we are seeing them, not necessarily going away because of any sort of governmental, issues, but ultimately because a lot of this is becoming automated. So many of those jobs that used to require multiple people can all now be done automatically, with machines. And so one of the new programs that we are standing up actively right now is our Instrumentational Electrical program, which will help folks that to understand not only how these equipment works, but how to repair them or to troubleshoot them when they go down, which is imperative. We can send anybody out to push buttons, but they need to really have that applied understanding of what they're doing. So that's going to be some add-on certificates that we're going to be offering through NCECER. We already have the electrical program. We're standing up instrumentation as we speak. I got a couple of faculty that are working on that. We're also bringing in LPG certification, to be able to work with some of the new jobs that are coming in with LPG. So we're going to be looking at adding those certificates on too here in sometime this year. I hope we're actively looking at some different options there. But from the alternative fuels, we're, as Dr. Strickland pointed out, we're actively seeking the wind certifications, also getting into conversations with solar companies in terms of hiring or educating up technicians that are going to be responsible for not only installation, but also working on these panels on all these different properties that are now getting them installed. And, we're, as she pointed out, we are talking to the leaders at all the major oil companies, and they're saying this is the direction they're going. We're not pushing anything that, they're not asking us to. And so in some of the summer camps that we offered last year, and we'll be offering again this year, we offered a Shell Energy Camp, and we're doing it again in a virtual format. And it was amazing. We typically would have maybe 30, 35 students that can come to campus at a physical location to do that camp. We had over 500 participants just in each of the camps. We also offered a NASA Astro Camp. So we're offering those again. Shell is also sponsoring their portion, as well as Chevron's sponsoring the NASA portion. And both of them are asking us to add more alternative fuel projects in there for the kids to work on. So we're certainly adding solar panels and an understanding of turbines to go with all the traditional oil and gas training that we already are familiar with. So more than happy to keep talking about, but that's kind of an overview of where we're at.
I'm really glad to hear it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did ask for the contact information to be dropped in the chat. So if you want to reach out to them directly, that's their actual email addresses. That's that's how you get them personally. So so please reach out if you have any follow-up questions or if you need any more information. So once again, I'll thank our friends from Fletcher for being part of this. I want to thank our fellow Coast team members. We've worked on this for a couple years now, and we've enjoyed being part of this team. And so thanks, guys. If you have any questions, don't forget to reach out.
Thank you all so much for the invitation.